Very first time we met some of our favorite Eternals on the comic page was, well, it was a unique time, let me tell you. The Eternal Icarus was posing as a professional wrestler, fighting his nemesis, the Great Enigmo. Enigmo appeared as a large, slightly deformed wrestler, but was actually hiding a much more grotesque deviant underneath. Enigmo was actually the deviant known as Cataphracts. As the match began, a cage made of glass lowered around the ring, and Cataphracts revealed himself to Icarus. The glass cage actually concealed their two appearances, so while they had a superpowered beatdown, the audience only saw a normal wrestling match. Ultimately, Enigmo appeared a few other times and would reveal powers that allowed him to create duplicates of himself from severed limbs. At the end of the day, Enigmo was just the bait to get Icarus into the ring and led him into a trap below the stadium where he was ambushed by several deviants. Some of the Eternals' greatest villains are actually Eternals themselves. While this next bunch certainly doesn't rank highly on the list, they are definitely an example showing that not everything is always hugs and handshakes with the Eternal race. The Delphin brothers were identical Eternals who appear in groups of 2 and sometimes 4. Their villainy really is just juvenile behavior at the end of the day. They tend to run from any responsibility that is carried by characters like Sersi and Ikaris. In their introduction, the brothers interfered with the third host of the Celestials, and picked a fight with some of them, but were ultimately defeated when Ikaris joined the fight. They have joined Eternal groups who are known for rebelling and can definitely hold their own in a fight, but mostly they're just known for running away. Oftentimes in the comics, the Eternals find themselves at odds with various members of the race that created them, the Celestials. They were instructed not to interfere in human affairs, but often that instruction cannot be followed by the Eternals when it comes to the greater good. Life on Earth is seen as an experiment to the Celestials. Therefore, when the Eternals interfere with human society, the Celestials get angry. The first Celestial that the Eternals have found themselves at odds with is Tefral the Surveyor. He is known specifically for recording changes in landscape on the planet Earth, and was one of the only Celestials to physically visit Earth during the first host. It is said that Tefral's abilities are so great he can detect even the smallest grain of sand's movement on the plane which he is surveying.
Hey Doc, you wouldn't happen to be moving your hair, would you?
Not at the moment.
He once held an atomic explosion in his hand and walked away without a scratch. The Eternals have been around for 1 million years, meaning that some of their enemies were made long, long ago. The ancient ruler of the deviant society of Lemuria was known as King Frog. 20,000 years ago, Frog led the deviants to conquer the entire world. During this time, Frog's scientist Alta was making him a serpent crown, but was secretly plotting to overthrow him. Frog found out and spent his last moments fighting with his once trusted ally. His and Alta's bodies were found still fighting over the crown as the Celestials flooded and drowned both the cities of Lemuria and Atlantis. The Band Root is a mess of a monster that has brought many of the Eternals to their knees. He is a massive deviant mutate created during the Lemurian Empire, and unleashed by the deviants as a powerful weapon. Not only does the Bandroot possess incredible strength, but it also has a curious hypnotic power. When the Bandroot sings a special song, it has the power to trap the Eternals within their own memories. The whole Eternal team was put out of commission by this move until Sersi was able to free them. Even without this power, however, the Bandroot still looks like a giant pink Jabba the Hutt just wreaking havoc on the unsuspecting public. Other villains have tried to control him, but his chaotic nature is a factor that the Eternals just can't account for. Gammonon the Gatherer was one of the first Celestials to visit Earth over 1 million years ago. It is Gammonon's job to collect samples of species to be used in the experiments conducted by the Celestials. On Earth those many years ago, it was he who gathered a sample of the indigenous ape-like creatures that would later be turned into the races of man, deviant, and eternal. Gammonon is extremely powerful, like all Celestials. He carries a unique weapon he uses for gathering purposes. It is a large staff composed of living metal which holds subjects in stasis to be used for experimentation. Gammonon developed a relationship with some of the Eternals, but still possesses that attitude of a Celestial, and has reduced humans to atoms just to prove a point to those whom he helped create. Carcass is actually a character who would become an ally to the core group of Eternals, but he started as a deviant mutate capable of destroying anything in his path. His strength is immense, and his head is even greater. He really was only a villain for a short time, playing the part of a gladiator. Truthfully, Carcass was sensitive and intelligent on the inside. He was a philosopher with the body of a 16-wheeler. Carcass would go on to form a close relationship with the Eternal Thena, and even gain some telepathic powers through his connection with her. He fought as a crazed monster, but was bested by the deviant mutate dubbed the Reject. Overall, Carcass showed incredible loyalty to Thena as a measure of gratitude for saving him from the life of a villain he was never meant to live. Gar was a deviant specially bred by the theocracy of the Deviant Society, and eventually grew to be their ruler and priest lord. Gar is often at odds, not only against the Eternals, but against factions of deviants as well, seeking the power of the deviant monarchy. Gar is incredibly cunning and clever, making him a very dangerous foe. He once gained the powers of a Celestial, took over the Unimind, and developed such a cult following that he was resurrected by his worshippers after he had long expired. Priest Lord Gar even mastered some level of mind control in beings whose genetic codes he recognized. He is a long-time recurring villain of the Eternals, and one who often poses a serious threat to them. Brother Toad was an especially ambitious monarch of the Deviant Society. And to be honest, his name is just spot on. He just kinda looks like a toad. But beneath that rather comical exterior is a ruthless ruler who decided to invade Olympia, the main city of the Eternals. He waged an attack on the Celestials during the second host, and ultimately went into hiding with several other Deviants. It can be said the Brother Toad contributed a great deal to Deviant Society, as he often ordered scientific studies that led to breakthroughs in medicine and weapons. He amassed a cult following and ruled over other powerful villains of the Eternals, as they served at the throne of Brother Toad. Arishem is an exceptionally powerful Celestial. His nickname suits him pretty perfectly based on his job functions. He is known by all Eternals as Arishem the Judge. It is his duty to decide whether a civilization is allowed to survive or not. He literally plays God with the experiments that the Celestials create. He was the Celestial in charge of all 4 hosts to the planet Earth. Like many Celestials, he sees the Eternals as his creation, and not a group of heroes whose side he is on. Therefore, he has been helpful to them in the past. During the second host, it was Arishem who created the great cataclysm that flooded the world to end the Deviants' rule. However, if at any moment Arishem decides that the human or Eternal race is not fit to continue on, he quickly becomes one of the most powerful villains the Eternals would ever face. Like all Celestials, his strength means he cannot be touched, and he has the power to destroy an entire world before breakfast. Ransack the Reject is so named for how his own deviant brethren treated him. Though Ransack is a deviant himself, one might confuse him for an Eternal. A genetic defect saw his appearance resemble that of a normal human. There have been several instances where Ransack actually fought with the Eternals, in opposition to the Deviant Society that cast him out because of his appearance. However, many times in his life, Ransack sought fame and glory from his fellow Deviants, and tried to achieve this by defeating the Eternals. Over the years, the rage grew inside Ransack, being a literal reject to his family, and he funneled that rage into a career as a gladiator. His ferocity and fighting ability were far superior to most of his opponents, and the Eternals would take the brunt of that whenever he opposed them. Ransack's gladiator success saw him take on the new moniker of the Killing Machine. Tiamut is a Celestial who once went by the name the Communicator. It was once his job to relay the findings of the Celestial host to the Celestial Horde, and he played a huge part in transferring the life force from planets to the Fulcrum. During the second host of Earth, however, Tiamut tried to overthrow Arishem, believing that his move against the Deviants was against protocol. This action caused his outcast by the rest of the Celestials, and Tiamut was put to sleep and buried beneath the mountains, adopting the new name of the Dreaming Celestial. Many villains like Gar and the Deviants, and even some heroes like Sprite, attempted to use the power of the Dreaming Celestial for their own purposes. For the longest time, Tiamut intended to destroy the planet once he had awoken. This was one Celestial the Eternals were happy to eventually win over to their side, as he developed a link with the Eternal Makari, whom he considered his prophet. Jemiah the Analyzer belongs to the most powerful class of Celestials. He plays an important role in their experiments. Working closely with Gammonon, Jemiah analyzes the samples gathered by the Great Celestial in order to determine their compatibility with the intentions of the godlike creatures. Jemiah is often just a threatening presence when the Celestials make their visits to Earth. I mean, hey, as far as backup goes, I wouldn't say no to having Jemiah stand behind me when I'm trying to look tough. In the Eternals film, it looks like Jemiah may even possess the power to create galaxies. He has fought in numerous battles with the most powerful beings ever to exist in the Marvel Universe. The Cosmic Hulk is one of the most interesting Eternal villains to date. 2 college students irresponsibly created a robot duplicate of the Incredible Hulk, complete with all the strength and rage issues. The abomination was brought to life when exposed to the cosmic energy produced by the Eternal's Unimind. He escaped the lab and destroyed a nearby city, ending several human lives. Some well-known Eternals then tried to stop the beast. However, the robotic cosmic-powered Hulk was able to defeat Icarus, Makari, and Circe. It was only the Eternal leader at the time, Zuras, who was able to drain the duplicate of his cosmic energy, returning his strength to a level that the Eternals could match. The decommissioned monster was then kept in Olympia, until he was stolen by others intending to use him as a weapon for less than noble purposes. Nazar the Calculator is yet another Celestial who participated in the 4 visits the Celestials took to the planet Earth. He's an exceptionally powerful being, choosing mental weapons over physical ones. During the 4th host, Nazar visited the Soviet Union, where he came under attack by Soviet nuclear weapons. However, Nazar implanted visions in the entire army's minds, and made them believe the bomb was targeting themselves. The traumatic experience left all involved in a comatose state. As a Celestial, Nazar can be a natural enemy to the Eternals, when the Eternals cannot stand idly by during their experiments. Nazar can regrow limbs in an instant and stands at 2,000 feet tall. Needless to say, he is yet another Celestial that the Eternals would have to come up with a creative way to defeat, or even stand a chance. The One Above All is a being known throughout the Marvel Universe as one of immense power. He is the ruler of the Celestials, a race responsible for the creation of the Eternals. He possesses an unknown amount of cosmic energy, making his powers nearly limitless. The likes of Odin bow before this incredible being. He is so rarely encountered, but to say that he is a straight villain would be inaccurate. He hardly takes the well-being of such mortal creatures like humans into consideration. Therefore, while his intentions are rarely villainous, the Eternals often find themselves against the Celestials, protecting the humans they have grown to love. While their relationship with each Celestial is slightly different, the ruler of the Celestials is certainly a cause for many hardships that the Eternals face, and there is not a single one who would dare face him. Druig is perhaps the greatest example of an Eternal gone wrong. His literal nickname is the Lord of Flames and Nightmares. He is also the cousin of one of the most heroic Eternals, Icarus. Druig especially focuses on the mental manipulation powers that all Eternals possess, and has used them to cause humanity to do some disastrous things throughout history. When the chips are down and there are bigger fish to fry, Druig will join with his Eternal brethren to fight, but he more often than not is trying to advance his own agenda. He has corrupted Eternals to become his followers, and often tried to start conflict with the Celestials against the wishes of the others. All in all, let's just say I think Druig and Loki would be the best of friends. Purple guy, wrinkly chin, sound familiar? Yes, the Mad Titan Thanos is certainly a villain to Marvel's Eternals, and in fact is one himself. Thanos' father Alars separated from the Eternal Society and began a new one on Titan. He is the cousin of the Eternal Thena, and appears as he does due to being born with a deviant gene. This made him a bit of an outcast growing up, leading to a life of rage, violence, and conquest. During the Thanos Rises storyline, his bloodlust led him to attack his ancestors, the Eternals. More so, it was Thanos' plan to destroy the Great Machine that the Eternals relied on so greatly. Thanos can likely be called a villain to just about any Marvel hero, as he tends to be a real pain. However, when it comes to the Eternals, Thanos' villainy and conquest is first and foremost a family affair. Dromedon is a villain so powerful that even his creators feared him, and put him to sleep to stop his wrath.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
He was created long ago by the Deviants to be used as an ultimate weapon against the Eternals. He possesses amazing psionic powers and mind control abilities. Whenever he is defeated, the heroes can only hope to put him to sleep, though he almost always eventually resurfaces. The first time he did so was when Druig thought he could control the beast, but was proven very wrong. It always takes a large team of Eternals, and sometimes other Marvel heroes, to win over the overpowered Dromedon. He is a villain who serves his purpose so well that even the Deviants fear what they have created. The Deviant Warlord Crow is perhaps the most well-known villain of Marvel's Eternals. His history with them is far more vast than any other. Born in Lemuria, Crow served the Deviants as a war general and clashed with members of the Eternals on several occasions. However, there is more to Crow than meets the eye. Crow has for a very long time maintained a secret relationship with the Eternal Thena. Because of this, Crow has often found himself having to work with his enemies, though he always finds his way back to opposing them. Crow managed to live longer than most Deviants, using his power to change his shape and reinvent himself so as to hide his incredibly long life. He helped lead the assault on Olympia along with Brother Toad and successfully captured all the Eternals. Crow has been in several powerful struggles among the Deviant race, and has ruled over factions of them on several occasions, making him a villain with considerable resources, strength, and intelligence that the Eternals will likely find themselves opposing for eternity.